Hey guys, what's up? It's Josh here from Force Fitness and another presentation for you guys on the good, the bad, the ugly of nutrition. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So, my goal for today, guys, again, obviously, is to educate, to inspire, and motivate you guys and give you guys a bit of an insight into what really goes down for nutrition, what's in the foods, what are the foods good for, and hopefully just give you a bit more of an understanding of why we sort of do what we do and why we choose the foods we choose and all that sort of stuff. All right, so let's get at it, shall we? Nutrition. Nutrition is the science that interprets the interaction of nutrients and other substances in food in relation to maintenance, growth, reproduction, health, and disease of an organism. It includes food intake, absorption, assimilation, biosynthesis, catabolism, and excretion. That is Wikipedia. That is what nutrition means. But we're going to go into it a little bit more about what it means to us individually. Some of those words might not make any sense to you, so we're going to clear a few things up, right? Death by food pyramid. So if you guys can't really see this, it says in small amounts, like your oils, margarines, refined things. Moderately is your dairy and your meat products and stuff like that. And then eat most is all your breads, grains, fruits, vegetables, and move more. If you follow this food pyramid, 9 times out of 10 you will gain weight, you will get fat. Okay, yes, there is calorie in, calorie out, but we look at obviously the nutrient density and the quality of foods that you're taking on board. So they're telling you to go primarily low fat. They're telling you to go moderate protein and moderate dairy, which sort of I'm okay with, and then they're telling you to load up on carbohydrates. Now, most people that come to a gym, come to see us, excuse me while I have a drink, that come to see us are struggling with weight. Some of you guys are struggling with weight. That's cool, right? That's fine. That's what we got to do. So we have to address it. If you followed this style and you have predominantly carbohydrate as your main source of energy or intake as calories go, you will get fat. You will get fatter. You will get unhealthy and you'll wonder why nothing ever seems to be working. So the pyramid, guys, and this is from Australian Dietary Standards, is not right. It's not correct. It needs to be changed. It needs to be modified. You know, even here saying no salt. Well, that's crazy. Our body needs sodium. It helps support the adrenals. It helps make sure our sodium and potassium levels level out. What we don't need is shit sodium, okay? So in a lot of these sort of foods, poor quality foods, yes, they have a lot of sodium in there. So the guideline clearly states that you will get fat if you follow the plan. Okay, so in those guidelines, I actually took a section when I did a kids nutrition seminar. There was a section directly remove, and I didn't take it out of context. I didn't do anything bad towards what they'd written down, and they said if the average person follows the guidelines that they recommend, they will become obese. They will gain weight and they will get fat. How is that national average standard? Okay, the companies that promote are funded by food companies. Okay, the companies that promote the guidelines or the companies that are involved with all this sort of stuff, it's funded by the food companies. Okay, the companies that say, like the health companies and the Heart Foundation and all those sorts of things to get the tick of approval and all that sort of stuff, it's by the food companies. They're paying to get those marks. They're paying to get those legislations through. They're paying to get those ticks or certified organic or whatever it may be, okay? The testing and studies as well, also funded by the food companies. So when we see a research paper printed or we see an article come through on the radio or TV supporting maybe a Kellogg's product or supporting that it's not nutrition, that it's exercise, you need to look at where the funding comes from, guys. A lot of the time it is funded by the food companies, so they obviously can doctor the numbers and make it look more beneficial that people do what they recommend and consume their products, okay? Everything that I tell you guys is for pure health. It's not for any profit from me. It's for you guys to gain the best results possible and get the most healthy transformation possible as well. So calories. Calorie is the approximate amount of energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree at a pressure of 1 atmosphere. Okay, so when we go on about calories in food and all that sort of stuff, you can see with something like this, the actual explanation of calories as to why sometimes a lot of people will argue against it. Now, I'm probably pulling splinters out of my ass, really. I sit on the fence. I can understand the conversation or the argument that people have that calories don't work and they're a myth, but I also understand the people that use calories because it is a good guideline and you do get results. Okay, I've used it time and time again for myself. I've used it for hundreds of clients. Both methods work. Not counting calories and watching portions, and then also doing the calorie counting thing. They both work, okay? But you just need to do what works for you, what suits your lifestyle, and what is less hectic in your brain, okay? A lot of the times people will choose a method, or a trainer will put down a method, and it's not what they want. You know, we used to have our way or the highway pretty much, but now it's got to be more open, right? Because there's too many variables at play. There's, you know, lots of kids, there's no kids, there's night shift, there's day shift, there's afternoon shift. So we need to realistically, like, throw down a plan that's going to suit you best. You know, calorie counting, not calorie counting. Whatever works for you guys is the right plan, okay? So basic energy in versus energy out. In an ideal world, this works perfectly if everybody operated like a calculator. So what I mean by that is we can throw into an online site calculating our basal metabolic rate, meaning how many calories we need just to lay down and do nothing all day. And then we can put in how many days a week we train. And then that can say we need 736 calories per day to maintain, or 1460 to lose weight, which is great, right? It's good guidelines, guys, but it is not how it works. Our body isn't a calculator. Okay, there are way too many variables involved. You know, like as I talk to you guys now, I'm sipping on water. Okay, so there's another thing, you know, are we dehydrated? Are we taking in water? Yet bodybuilders swear by this method because it works, okay? They get to single-digit body fat percentage. They're the most shredded human beings on the planet with the most amount of muscle. So we cannot deny or ignore that method doesn't work. But again, not everybody's body works the same, and we have to look at sometimes hormonal profiling. We have to look at gut health, things like that. So you may be consuming exactly the same amount of calories as someone else, but someone has leaky gut, and they don't actually absorb a lot of those calories. So a lot of them can be stored as fat, yeah? So making sure we understand all the variables, making sure we understand exactly what it means to be energy in versus energy out if our body's working well. Sometimes it's not always the case. Okay, macros. You guys would have heard of macros, right? A class of chemical compounds humans ingest to provide energy. What does that mean? Protein, fat, carbs, and alcohol. Okay, a lot of people won't throw the alcohol one in there, but it's a real thing, right? We still consume it. Some people daily, some people weekly, some people monthly, some people never, but it is still a macronutrient, okay? They are the four main ones that we consume. So protein. Proteins are large biological molecules or macromolecules consisting of one or more chains of amino acid residues. Okay? Very, very simple, and we go into it. What does it do? It contributes to your hair and nails. Your body uses protein to repair and build tissue. You also use protein for enzyme production, hormones, and making other body chemicals. Protein is a very important building block of bones, skin, and cartilage, if you are French. Okay, so it's basically the repair macro, okay? It's going to help us undo any unnecessary damage or any like actual damage that we wanted to do. So intentional damage through resistance training and things like that, okay? So very, very important for our diet. You know, how much is enough? Depends on your goal and training style. Okay, lean mass is a key indicator of intake amount. What I mean by that is if you're, let's say, a 45, excuse me, a 45 kilo girl at 10% body fat. Okay, that means 4.5 kilos of your body weight is fat. So it means you've got, what's the math? Just under 40 kilos. Okay, I know this is super light. Don't take me on these numbers, but you wouldn't need the same as a 120 kilo guy that's got 85 kilos of muscle. Okay, your body just won't break it down, it won't use it efficiently, you'll turn it into waste, it would be unnecessary. So you manage intake and you manage the amount based on lean mass. Okay, good indicator of, you know, how much you really need to consume day by day. The more damage, the more protein. So what I mean by damage is not necessarily what we're talking about, hair, skin, nails, teeth. It helps. I'm talking about training. If you're doing more resistance training, not necessarily boot camp or cardio or conditioning, but the more resistance training you are doing, the more protein you should be taking on board, okay? Because you're doing a lot of superficial damage and tearing to the muscle fibers, and we want to make sure that it's getting adequate recovery so we can get back at it again, build the muscle and have a good metabolic rate and all that sort of stuff. So 30% of your total macros on resistance training is a good start, okay? It's just a really easy, good round number. So if you're doing 2,000 calories a day, 30% of your total calories will go to protein. Pretty basic, guys. We're going to go into a little bit more calorie stuff and everything, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible just to give you a really good indication of how easy nutrition is. Can you have too much? Your body's ability to have regular protein synthesis differs from person to person. So like I said a little bit earlier there, some people, the more muscle you have, the easier you're going to break it down. Some people don't handle protein well. So it's understanding what works for your body, and that really is assisted by tracking your food intake, keeping a journal, all those sort of things. High cortisol or a slow thyroid slows this process down and will affect the kidneys and also muscle mass and recovery. Okay, so if you're really high stress, if you're super slow thyroid, if you don't know what that means, it just means you're struggling to lose weight generally. It affects the kidneys again and also muscle mass and recovery. So we want to manage the intake there, okay? It's okay to, throw heaps of protein down when you're under high stress from exercise, but if you're in a work environment or a family environment that's really high stress as well, then there's got to be some things that need to be taken into consideration, and protein intake is one of those things. So into fats. Okay, fats, also known as triglycerides, they are the esters of 3 fatty acid chains and the alcohol glycerol. Okay, again, guys, the meanings don't always have to mean anything to you. It's just I'm giving you guys the education and the information to help make sure you make better decisions, yeah? What do? Fats is important foodstuff for many forms of life, and fats serve both structural and metabolic functions. They are a necessary part of the diet. We need them in there, guys. I'm all for eliminating macronutrients for short terms, for detox purposes or for very strict guidelines as far as events go or something like that. But generally, we only want to keep fats out for maximum 4 days. Okay, it's really a big metabolic primer. It helps with hormonal balance, and it's obviously a very easy way to keep our calories in there. So making sure that we keep our intake in to help the body, yeah? How much? Again, it depends on your total calorie intake, as they are high density, being 9 calories per gram. So that's one thing I didn't go through a little bit earlier actually in the macros, was that each individual macro has its own particular calories per gram. So protein and carbohydrates are both 4 calories per gram, okay? And then alcohol is 7, and then fat is 9, okay? Unless you're in a short-term detox, I don't believe ever having a no-fat diet. I don't agree with those diets. I think they're very dangerous. I think it encourages to eat another macronutrient, mainly carbohydrates, which can be very hard to, eliminate cravings and all that sort of stuff. So whether your workout ratio is based off body fat or kilo weight, for a female at least 30 grams of fat per day and males around the 50, okay? What does that look like? For females, it's an avocado and a couple of tablespoons of oil, half an avocado, sorry. For males, same thing again, like it's a couple of handfuls of nuts, half an avocado and good to go. That wasn't a male nut joke there either. Can you take too much? Of course you can. Guys, in nutrition, there's one thing that a lot of people disregard when it comes to health and healthy foods. Too much of anything is not good, okay? Too much of a food that can be good. So let's use an example, right, of like a chicken. If you eat too much chicken, your body produces particular enzymes to break those down. So once you consume or overconsume that food type, okay, the body will slow that enzyme production down, and then it won't break it down properly, okay? So then it can come on digestive problems, gut health, all that sort of stuff. So fats, high in calories, very easy to overconsume, and it's hard to break down if your gallbladder doesn't work well as well. Carbs. A carb is a biological molecule consisting of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. What do? They provide energy for your body. The simplest are sugars like glucose, sucrose, fructose, and lactose. Complex carbs like starch are made up of lots of sugar molecules joined together. Again, guys, I don't really know if you care too much about these things, but it is what it is, right? So how much do we take on for carbs? Again, guys, it depends on your goal. Fat loss is different to bulking, okay? Maintenance is different to fat loss. Insulin sensitivity plays another huge factor in your amounts per day and the timing of it as well. So when we talk about insulin sensitivity, all that means is how well you handle carbohydrates, okay? How well you can eat pastas and breads and rice and potatoes and all that stuff. And that will have a very big indication on whether or not you are bulking, whether you are maintaining, or whether or not you're in a fat loss. So the amounts, obviously, starting low between 30 to 50 or no carbs other than in your cruciferous veg and stuff like that's a good baseline to get going with. Can you have too much? If insulin doesn't work properly, it will bypass the muscle cells and store as energy/fat on the liver and throughout the body, okay? Everybody has a different breaking point. Everybody has a different tipping point as to how many carbs they can take on. So I know me personally, I can get lean on about 180 to 220 grams of carbs per day. Okay, as long as my training's intense, I have high volume and I'm training frequently, I can get away with that. But if I drop down to maybe 3 sessions a week, not massive volume, then I've got to drop my carbs back down to about 50 grams a day. That's the way it is, right? Like, I know what works for my body. But it's paying attention. It's just taking a little bit of time and understanding how your body performs, how it responds to intake, and all the good stuff that goes with it. So food quality, okay? Again, this is something we've skimmed through what the foods are. We're going to get into food quality now, and what I believe and what I've witnessed and what I've seen is the best, okay? Damage to cells are massive through pesticides, additives, preservatives, and genetically modified organisms, GMO. Products, okay? So I know a lot of people say, oh, how can you see that? People get sick, okay? Cell damage occurs in every area of your body and can inhibit the function of the entire endocrine system, which is all your hormones, all your hormonal system put together, your musculoskeletal, your respiratory, your cardiovascular, like everything. I think I said the same thing twice then. But all your systems put together, okay? Immune system, all that sort of stuff. And we don't want to run the risk of having to supplement every single fucking day of the rest of our lives because we want to eat shit quality food. Okay, this is why If It Fits Your Macros has its flaws with people who are not in good health, and why when someone new to dieting with more weight needs cleaner foods, okay? What I mean by that is someone who comes in who's got 50, 60 kilos to lose. They need to be restricted, okay? They need to be on a fairly fairly minimal list of foods that are high quality, nutrient dense, not calorie dense, and just getting their body optimal, right? Getting their body in a position where it can actually lose weight and lose fat. And the other thing about, someone coming in having 50 kilos to lose, let's be honest, if you've got 50 kilos to lose, you have fucking really bad behavioral patterns with food, okay? I've been there. I've been in that position before. So it's like the old alcoholic situation, right? If you put a carton in front of an alcoholic and say, you've got 19 days to drink this, what are they going to do? Okay, why worry about that sort of stuff? Why test willpower? Why not just eliminate the foods, eat clean or eat healthy or eat paleo, whatever the fuck you want to call it, okay, and give your body the best chance possible to get healthy. Because that's what we talk about, right, is general health and wellness, as well as fat loss and having a transformation. We want to be healthy. We want the vitality. We want the quality of life to be in there as well. So when we talk about gut permeability, the ability for the gut to absorb a lot of the minerals, okay, it's severely damaged when bad foods go in there, okay? It can literally, if you think about your stomach as a stocking, and we fill it up with sand, and then you go through and punch all little holes in the stocking, okay, and all the sand starts to leak out. Imagine that as fat in your body, okay? So all the food goes in, and then your food can't break down through the sock or the stocking and go into your gut, so it just leaks out into your body. Not ideal when we're talking about fat loss and a transformation, okay? And just general health. Also, the more artificial the food, the less beneficial the amount of bacteria you get for your gut biome. So what we mean is our body's made up of lots of little things, but we have this little community in our stomach of gut bacteria. The less real the food is, the less bacteria it has in it. We need bacteria. We need dirt. We need shit on plants. We need bits of bugs. We need all that stuff to continue to make the same environment that we've had for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? I know people are all about washing their food and all that sort of stuff, and sometimes, yes, if it's been sprayed with a lot of shit, it is more beneficial. But if you're buying organic food, eat the dirt. If you do stuff from your yard, you know, who cares if there's a bit of bug or a bit of bird shit on there, okay? That sort of stuff makes us good. It makes our guts good. Meal frequency. It is a personal thing, okay? Me, I prefer to eat less times per day, okay? I don't enjoy eating every 2 hours or 3 hours. To me, it does my head in, right? I prefer like maybe a big coffee in the morning with some protein or whatever, or a protein shake, and then a big lunch after training and dinner. For me, that suits my schedule, that suits my lifestyle, that's what I like to do. Some of you guys might like to eat every 2 to 3 hours because you feel like you're hungry or you're starving or you get faint or whatever. Cool. It's what works for you. Continue to do that. You know, are you looking to gain a lot of muscle? You need more calories. Therefore, eating more meals would probably be more beneficial to split the size of the meals up, okay? If you need to go on a bulk and try and consume 6,000 calories a day and you want to do intermittent fasting and eat twice, generally you're probably going to struggle to get that in. So breaking it up over more meals to be able to get the calories in there, okay? Are you looking for fat loss? You could consume less calories, therefore meal frequency could be less. You know, does it work in with your lifestyle? Are we looking at it from a stress management perspective? We're looking at from dietary compliance and preferred methods. Are you insulin resistant? Are we looking at nutrient timing for more benefits? When you train, or blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. I could overload you guys with the right kind of meal frequency. But the bottom line is it's what works for you, okay? If we talk about lifestyle, for example, my lifestyle allows me to train whenever I want, okay? So I prefer to train through the day. So for me, I like to have a big lunch, right? That works for me. For you, you might have to train in the morning. So maybe a big breakfast works for you or a big dinner, vice versa. So when we look at stress management, again, if you've got 4 kids and the morning is fucking hectic for you, maybe intermittent fasting is a good way to go, where you get up in the morning, you just have a shake or a coffee, and you have lunch, afternoon tea, and dinner. Okay? We also want to look at dietary compliance. If we lay down a program or a plan for you that has 6 meals a day in it, and you fucking hate that and you don't do it, then it's not the right plan. We want to get compliance. We want to have a preferred method. Okay? Homeostasis. What does this mean? It's our body's natural state of well-being where hormones are balanced, okay? It just means we stay regular, all right? It's where our body is optimal. It means it works best. Hormones are working. Everything's working. We sleep, we shit, we laugh, we cry. Everything's where it should be, okay? Staying regular allows for greater compliance and a better behavioral pattern with food, okay? So obviously having your hormones in check, sleep patterns, all those sort of things. If you're in sync or your body's in sync, it means you're going to have better compliance, which means you'll get better results, okay? Enough room either side of the line, but not enough to upset it. So obviously, if you know that you're going out, so let's say you do intermittent fasting, that's your style, right? That's your preferred method. But you've got a buffet dinner or you've got a buffet breakfast on option for work, you know that just by going out and having that one meal isn't going to disrupt the balance that much, okay? It's not going to throw you out for a month and you won't be able to sleep for the rest of August or anything like that. It's just you've got that leeway either side, you know, a party night or something like that. Things either side of it that's not going to really have too much ill effect on the overall outcome of what you're doing with your diet and stuff like that, okay? So being as close to balance allows for greater functioning between the nervous systems. So what we mean there, guys, is 2 nervous systems. We have our sympathetic and our parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight, okay? So that's when we're alert, when we're awake, when we're stimulated, when we're ready to go. We then have our parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest. So we slow down, we sleep, our body recovers, we break down all our food. That's pretty much it. So when we are close to homeostasis or our body being balanced, we transition really well between those two nervous systems. So what that means is we're not like when we should be peaking through the day, ready for a nap, or vice versa. At night time, we're not ready to go to bed, but we're fucking lit up like a bloody Christmas tree, ready to go, okay? The longer we stay here, the easier our body finds a set point. Example, lose weight and balance 65 kilos for 2 years. You want to get to 55, you need to push hard for 12 months after hitting your goal, so that is your normal. Okay, if that doesn't make sense. What I mean is, if you're constantly dieting really, really hard and always in a really big deficit, your body's never really finding homeostasis or that natural ground, okay? So let's say you come into the gym and you're 85 kilos and you go, right, first thing, I want to get to 70. You get to 70 and then you sit there for a few months, okay? You don't blow out, you don't say it's a plateau or anything like that, you just maintain that weight. And then that is your new normal. Then you go, right, I'm at 70 now, now we're going to diet down to 62 kilos or whatever it may be. It's just really easy examples to use scale weight, obviously. But if you work off body fat percentage, same thing goes. You may want to get to 10%, sit at 10% for a year and then push to 8%. Whatever it is, guys, okay? But dieting forever, not a very effective method to have a happy life. How low is too low of calorie? Depending on your schedule, metabolic rate, and other variables such as sleep and stress will depend on your intake, okay? Any deficit you are in, meaning that you are consuming less than what you are putting out, is stress on the body and should always be brought back into alignment a few times a year with dietary breaks. Low for short times to kickstart is fine, but reverse dieting then needs to be implemented or heavy supplementation. So the top point, guys, depending on your schedule, metabolic rate, and other variables, blah, 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 blah. The more you're awake, the more calories you need to consume, obviously, because you're just burning more, okay? If you're a busy guy and you train twice a day and you have a very physical job, again, you can handle more intake. The second point, any deficit is stress on the body. So if you're dieting, it is stressful, okay? So every now and again, and we encourage it, have a week off. If you go on holidays, enjoy the time, enjoy the break, enjoy eating some other foods, enjoy having a few drinks. Don't stress it out. If you're working hard the rest of the time, it's okay to have that. But this is where people get a little bit stuck, is they're not compliant with their diet the 3 months leading up to the holiday, and then they go, and they stress about the holiday, or they binge eat while they're away, whereas if they just had compliance, doing about 80-20 while they were leading up to the holiday, they wouldn't feel so bad about it, right? So eliminating that sort of stress. And again, low for short times to kickstart if there's a wedding or whatever. I'm happy for all that sort of stuff to go down, but you need to supplement, yeah, and then work on reverse dieting. So that just means slowly bringing your calorie intake back up. Because the low calorie, your metabolism slows down. Obviously, we want to have a good metabolism, so speeding it back up every now and again is always going to be beneficial. So reverse dieting. Get a starting point, diet until you get no results, then gradually keep driving calories and macros up. Now, if you do it too fast, you'll gain fat, okay? Some of you guys coming in here may be on like 800 calories, like maybe seriously that's where you're at. So then we work off low calorie dieting for a little bit, but we work on the increase, okay? You might only get to a point where your maintenance is 1300, and that's fine, okay? That's where it's at for your body. That's what we want to work towards. If you have the time, if you're working with a PT one-on-one, if you know your fucking schedule inside out, you can diet up to a really, really high amount of calories, okay? But if you're just working on lifestyle, then we just push and find where your limit is. So the diet breaks, guys, helps with the emotional struggle with hard dieting, okay? It improves your thyroid function and adrenal fatigue if you have been ultra low carb or low calorie for too long. It helps improve metabolic capacity by driving intake up, gets you at a higher set point so less muscle will be lost in your next dieting phase. Okay, so the break. If you've dieted really hard for 4 weeks, going out for dinner, having a couple of days off is good. It resets everything. You feel good again. You've eaten some of the foods. You may have eaten some foods that you didn't realize made you feel like shit, okay? So it's a bit of an eye-opener for you as well. It improves thyroid function and adrenal fatigue. So the thyroid slows the less calories and less carbs you have, okay? So by introducing carbs back in and calories back in, you'll help sort of boost those things up there. Again, improving your metabolic capacity by driving intake up. So if you came into me and you were in a position where you could gain 4 or 5 kilos, I'd put you on like 2,000 or 2,400 calories straight away. gain a couple of kilos, your metabolism would be firing, and then we'd start to diet down. So we get 2,000 as your new set point, and then we diet at 1,800. So you only end up dropping down to like 1,400. Unfortunately, most of the time when you guys come in, you don't want to gain weight. So we have to start low and work our way back up. But it's just another method, right? It's another way to improve metabolic function and diet from a higher calorie set point. How do we burn more fats? Okay, we want to increase our stress response in a low carb environment. Okay, so we talked about stress before, trying to keep it low. We also need stress. It's a good response in our body. It releases adrenaline and catecholamines. They do their job. They bring out the beta receptors to mobilize more fat. So the alpha receptors will block you from burning fat. Beta receptors release fat. Okay. Predominantly for women, they have 9 times more alpha receptors in the lower half of their body than men. So as long as those are down there and you're in a high carb environment, it's going to be very hard for you to release fat from your bum, thighs, and hips. Have you ever seen the women with the classic hourglass shape, right? Like really big booty, big hips. Generally, they're in a low calorie environment, but they're in a high carb situation as well, okay? So they're in a position where their body's probably burning some calories, but it's not releasing fat from the right areas. So we want to mobilize the fat from those areas from a female's perspective most of the time. Okay, when carbs are high, this will not work, so fat loss is slowed. So we can shift into body type dieting, right? Just more information for you guys. We have an ectomorph, which is a classic hard gainer. So super skinny, eat whatever they want, never really get on muscle, gain muscle. We then have our mesomorph, which is the muscular type. Again, they can sort of eat whatever they want, and they can stay shredded. They can get muscly really, really quick. They can drop fat really quick. They can get fat really quick. And then we go into the endomorph, which is the easy gainer and the hard loser. So if we go up to your top one here, the ectomorph, think classic like skinny fat. We go into the mesomorph, think don't really train too much. They can diet for 4 weeks and get abs. Think endomorph, the sort of nuggets that have to train flat out, diet really hard to get any results. So your ectomorph, right? Fast metabolism. They need to build more muscle than fat loss. Generally, again, guys, we could break it down into 3 categories. These are the top 3, okay? Excess calories are a bonus. Increased frequency to prevent any muscle turnover. Late night feeding and supplements are recommended. So they have a faster metabolism, right? So what that means is they generally will burn through more calories, okay? So they can consume more food than most other people, right? They want to build more muscle than focus on fat loss. They're already generally very lean with low amounts of muscle, so it's focusing on muscle. Increasing their meal frequency, particularly their protein, to make sure that there is no muscle. So when we diet, guys, essentially there is a point where we do lose muscle, okay? Because we're in a calorie deficit, so our body will release whatever it can to burn for calories, and sometimes protein and muscle does get used up. So by increasing the frequency with a classic ectomorph, you'll prevent any sort of, I guess, mishap that any muscles may get turned over. Late night feeding, supplements are recommended. The mesomorph, these guys build muscle very quickly. They lose fat very quickly. They already have a pretty muscular physique, and they can slide into either cardio or weights and get great results, okay? So again, guys, these guys are fortunate, but they still have to work. I know a lot of people that get very jealous of this body type, but they still have to work for it, okay? It is what it is. And the endomorph, short and stocky. I'm a classic endomorph, right? Short and stocky. I gain muscle easily, but I also can get fat very, very quickly as well. I do find it a little bit harder to lose weight. Generally, I do have a slower metabolism, so I need to be active. I can handle a high volume training frequency, and low carb, high protein, generally the best style for those guys and those body types. Styles for training. Again, guys, it's goal specific. Some of the benefits with pre-training carbs and some for after. Look at your goal. Is it aesthetic or performance based, and does your weight matter? Okay. Food labels. If you guys are counting calories or working off the back of packets and all that sort of stuff, they're usually out by 20 to 30%. It's a good guideline again, but it's not always 100% accurate. The first ingredient you read on the back of a label is the highest amount in that product. So if you look at the back of a label and the first thing says sugar, then the most, well, I guess the highest nutrient or mineral or whatever it is in that product is sugar, okay? And they get really tricky with ingredient names. Seriously, guys, my packeted food or labeled food is so minimal in my house. We have herbs and spices, oils, butter, and almond milk. That's it. The rest is like fruit, veggies, tins of tuna, um, fruit, veggies, rice, all that sort of stuff. Pretty basic, yeah. Preservatives, additives, and colours. Guys, really, like most of these toxic. They're toxic for your body. GMO, trans fat, MSG, aspartame, enriched flour, cornstarch, soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup, yellow colouring. I don't really want to go on too much into this. That could be like a completely separate slideshow in itself, but most of the shit's bad for your body, okay? It's not good. Try and consume less if you can. Putting it together. Guys, the basic, do what works for you, okay? Our basic plan is 3 to 4 palm size of protein, 3 to 4 meals a day, 2 fistful of veg per meal. So you're looking at 6 to 8 fistful of veg. Again, from a fat loss perspective, 1 cup of your starchy carbs, and you can do a serve of fruit if you want. So your proteins, guys, are like your meat, fish, and poultry. So your beefs and all those sort of things, all your fish, chicken, turkey, that sort of stuff. Starchy carb, rices, potatoes, all those sort of things. Your veggies, all your green cruciferous veg, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, kale, like all those sorts of things. And then your serves of fat. So if you're working off like fat, you can say like a tablespoon is 1 serve, or if you're consuming nuts, 2 fingers, okay? Fill up 2 fingers for nuts, and that's a serve of fat. Guys, following that plan will get you really healthy, okay? For some of you guys, it may be too much, so you may not get ideal weight loss to begin with or fat loss to begin with, but it'll give you a really good baseline on things to follow. So, guys, I hope that this was beneficial for you. Again, really basic insight into nutrition, really easy principles to follow, some understandings about protein, fat, and carbs, the different benefits to it. Can we have too much? How much is enough? But again, guys, the basic nutrition plan to follow is the one we've got here. If you have any questions ever, please feel free to contact your trainers in the gym. Hit them up. If you find this information useful, please share with your friends. Other than that, guys, stay smart, stay strong, stay sexy, and I'll see you guys in the gym.